Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar today looking at the use of plastics in horticulture. I'm joined by my colleague, Dr. Lael Walsh, and our two guest speakers, Frances Peters and Jesus Frias. And Lorraine Foley joins us as well, as she's worked with Jesus and Lael on a project that Jesus will introduce. So some housekeeping first. We have a poll running to learn a little bit about you, our audience. The poll is anonymous and Lael will read out the results in a minute. And during the webinar, you can submit questions with the Q&A function, and we will follow up at the end of each presentation. And during the presentation, all the cameras will be turned off except for the speaker. As we know, society and industry are trying to decrease our use of plastics and trying to increase the sustainability of what we do. So horticulture is already a green industry, and it is great to be able to increase the positive impact we can make. So we will look at two aspects with our speakers, firstly recycling, and secondly then looking at packaging to increase shelf life. Lael, are we ready to look at the results? Hello, Lael seems to have paused there, but I think I can go through them. We have a share of who's online. There's about 30% from nursery stock, 15% from fruit and veg, fruit. Vegetables is 23%. We've someone there from mushrooms, tomatoes, salad leaves, and then 30% is others. And then looking at what challenges do you face when disposing of plastics? So 23% of people said they cannot find a supplier. 38% said my plastic material is unsuitable to be recycled. 23% said there was no supplier able to take my plastic due to soil, dirt, or debris. And then 54% of people said there was another reason. Question number 3 was, what packaging materials do you use? 33% said single-use plastics. 47% said cardboard, 20% returnable trays, 27% boxes, 27% plastic bags, 7% biodegradable packaging, 13% MAP films or modified atmosphere packaging, and then 60% others. So there's quite a wide range of materials there, but cardboard is coming up on the top there. And number 4, Lael, you're back with us. I see. Just going through the results, we've got number 4. What is your customer's attitude towards packaging?
Apologies, everyone. My internet went down there for a moment.
No problem. We're just going through the results. Question number 4. Or Lael, do you want to finish off there on those results? I think we're hit and miss there, so I'll just keep going. Number 4, what's your customer's attitude towards packaging? 47% said they demand environmentally sustainable packaging. 67% said they're interested in moving to a more environmentally friendly or environmentally sustainable
what is your
packaging
customer's
source.
attitude to?
Okay. Bit of interference, we'll go back. And number 5, do you expect any value-added packaging or similar recycling materials to improve your profit margin? 67% said yes, and 33% said no. Okay, so quite a interesting range of views there. So we'll leave that poll there. I'm going to hand over to Frances first to start the presentation. Frances is going to present his view of recycling from the recycler's point of view, or his view of plastics. And Frances works for KDI Recycling in Tipperary.
Yeah, or Limerick.
Limerick, you're close by there. Okay. Well, Frances, we'll hand over to you and then we'll follow up with the questions and answers. And like I say, you can put questions and answers in through the Q&A button during the presentation. So we'll turn off our cameras and our microphones and hand over to you, Frances. You can start sharing your screen now. Okay. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. My name is Frances Peters, and I work for a company called Rock Recycling. So recycling plastics in the nursery and horticultural industry are recyclable as recyclers' perspective. So just a bit of background behind Rock Recycling Solutions. It was established in 2010 as a waste management service provided to the commercial and industrial sector. Irish-owned company headed by nationally and internationally respected professionals, expertise in waste processing, brokering and recycling, operates nationwide and across all industries and commercial sectors. For every type of waste, we have a suitable and appropriate solution. We are making tangible contribution to resolving the global issue of raw material shortage and to achieving climate targets, and we represent a connecting link in a circular economy in which one day we will have waste no more. So another part of the business then, Rock is the collection side of it and manage waste from all various different industries. And we also have a facility in Kilteely, which is called KDI, Kilteely Drumkeen Innovations. So this is quite interesting. It opened its gates in September 2013. At the peak of the Irish recession, a group of 10 people came together to discuss the significant problem of emigration and lack of employment in the area. Following a successful initiative to collect scrap metal for the GA Club, it was decided to pursue the entrepreneurial idea of setting up a recycling business, KDI, Kilteely Drumkeen Innovation Limited. KDI collects waste cardboard and plastic from local enterprises and retailers in Limerick and the surrounding area. The waste material is brought to the KDI facility in Kilteely, where it is processed and then sent for onward sale and exportation. So that's just a quick little photo. You have the recycling yard in Kilteely. You know, we keep the area very tidy. It's good support for the local community and people feel safe and there's lots of activity. So that's just a little picture of the outside of it. And as I said, it's kept nice and tidy and we've nice flowers in front. Now, I suppose I've worked with nurseries over the last 3 or 4 months and we've had massive success in managing waste and managing recyclables. And I suppose I've got to know everybody within the business and, you know, it's very interesting. So these are some of the customers that I'm currently dealing with. We've Spring Hill Nurseries, Kelly's Nurseries, Rentis Nurseries, Tully's, Sharam Plants Limited, Larry Doran, Amore Nurseries and Woodstock Nurseries. We also are doing business with Sat Nurseries, which is down in my local area in Tipperary. Again, Dundrum Nurseries, Frank Alley, which is local to my hometown. Young Nurseries then in Limerick, Les Green then in Piltown, Yellow Firs, Swanton Nurseries. And currently then I'm working with Uniplumo, Fitzgerald's Nurseries and Shanahan Nurseries then, which are down in Kerry. So I suppose the next photo there is important just to see the materials that I deal with. So materials that come into the plant, they come in various ways. So as you can see, they come in stacked and nicely presented with cling fling around them. And I suppose that's important that presentation is good. They can also come in like this. And as you can see, there's a lot more work involved there where you have a mixture of pallets, plastic, cardboard. And if that comes into me, then it's very labor intensive. It can also come into me in crates like this. So that's quite suitable. Pots are packed nice and neatly into your crates. And they can also come in like this in PP bags. So I suppose from those 4 pictures, the secret to our success is segregation. And that's conversations I have with customers on a daily basis. Segregation is king. So you never mix your PP pots and PS trays together. When you do that, you are contaminating both products. Prep your material in a way that is labor-free for the recycling center. So, you know, that's the whole ethos of we working together as a team and we dividing the cost and the labor from the initial source then to when it gets to the recycling centre, and ensure materials are stacked well and transport well. So there's no point in loading a truck and, you know, after 2 hours, then it gets to me and it's all over the place. So it needs to be strapped, wrapped and nice and tidy and presented well. So just to give you a little flavour of our baling operation, you'll see on these photos, you'll see your blue baler and your conveyor, and your materials then are presented to that baler and they're baled. The material is baled on site to produce a 450 kilo bale. So that photo shows all the PP pots and PS trays that I've collected over the last 4 months from the various different sites. Approximately 60 ton now has been baled and managed through our process, which is excellent work, you know, so we're making great progress on that. Each bale is weighed, as you can see there. And then when a 40-ton stock is available, the material then is loaded onto a closed container and exported. So you just have a little video then of your forklift then going into a closed container. You take photographic evidence, you seal it up, you close the door then, and that's exported. So where is it exported? It goes to the Netherlands and Belgium. And just a quick summary then on what happens. We work with a reprocessor in the Netherlands and Belgium. The facility shreds the material and then washes it. Separation occurs by materials having different densities. So your PP material will float in water and your PS will sink. The material then is granulated and extruded into a pellet or pellet. The PP pellet material goes on to make specific car parts for the automotive industry, and successfully then the PS material, which is your little PS tray, goes on then to make more PS trays in the nursery industry. We also deal then in plastic and cardboard. So you'll see the trailer of plastic. It's clear plastic, and the minute you mix a color with that clear, then that's not good. You have to have segregation. So you have your clear plastic, then you've colored plastic, which we call in the business jazz, and then you've printed jazz. So if you can separate your plastics, that's doing an awful lot of good for the environment. And we, as the recycler, then can process it better. And the other photo then shows cardboard. So it's as simple as that. You bale your cardboard, you load it on a siding curtain or a trailer, and you export it. So the future and how we're going to drive this forward. So Rock Recycle aims to constantly reinvent and improve the way things are done, both in customer relations and recycling. Rock provides information on what's happening to collect the materials, what process they will undergo, and where they are being recycled. We want our suppliers to be aware of what's happening to their waste and to know the process. By raising awareness, we hope to educate and prevent waste. Technology has made it easier than ever to track customer preferences and history. Rock keeps track of waste generated, collections, report requirements, and training to ensure that we bring best possible collections and communication systems to our suppliers. Rock addresses existing customers same way as we do the potential ones. We value joint work and commitment. So that's it for me. Thank you very much. And if anyone is interested in speaking or talking any part of the industry I'm interested in, and I can give out my details at any stage. So thank you very much.
Francis, thank you very much. So if you stop sharing there, we'll go into our Q&A session then. Great, thanks very much. So a couple of questions have come in there. So first off, what is the position with recycling plastic netting on veg? I hope this isn't a tricky one.
Yeah, I haven't come across it, but basically if I visit any facility, I can take a sample and I go away then and I can do some tests on it. So if someone can post or supply a sample of that netting, I can do my best then to come back with a solution on that.
Okay, that sounds positive. There's a comment here as well. It seems like pots and trays would be ideal for reuse in a closed loop system. Are there phytosanitary concerns with this? Well, I guess I will kind of answer that with my nursery stock hat on. There is some level of reuse of pots, but it isn't widespread. There's reusable trays are much more common. But it's I think, Francis, you might have an opinion on this, the reusing of pots and collecting and redistribution. There's a whole infrastructure that would need to be built around that.
You know, from my experience, when I go to a facility, they're all mixed. You've black, you've red, you've green, and you know, if you were to segregate them out in different colors and maybe wash them, you know, to be very difficult. I think is that the question that the viewer is asking?
Yeah, I think that's the practicality. And the phytosanitary side, I could say that they would need to be washed and sterilized to prevent weeds and disease being passed on. But I think you'd need a standardized product in the same way you had a standardized milk bottle. But yeah, not to rule it out, but it's a big ask as well. And next question there is, can you take solid white plastic, bit mucky, maybe some leaves, things like that?
Yes,
and that like soiled white plastic, sorry, not solid.
Yeah, it like once it's not too soiled, you know, we can manage it. So again, you know, I'd have to visit that facility and just see the material, you know, that there is leeway in it, but excessive soil material then just wouldn't work. But look, when you're generating that plastic, so let's say you're opening the plastic of moss peat, you know, a shake of the plastic will suffice, and you put that plastic, which is slightly dirty, into a baler or a container. But we'll say clumps of dirt, you know, we wouldn't be able to manage that, no.
Okay. Do you charge nurseries to take the plastic, and how clean or dirty? Well, I think we've covered the clean and dirty side, but what are the costs?
Yes, I would charge a nursery to take the plastic. So it all depends then on the distance. So for instance, if you were to collect material, say Limerick, Kildare, you're talking 450, 500 euro for the transport cost. I suppose what I've done then with Kildare nurseries is we try to combine all the nurseries together, which in turn reduces the collection charge. So that's something that I'm working with on them, and it's working out well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so coming together is useful for working as a group.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, but just one note that, you know, we at the facility in KDI, we do a lot of segregation, so it doesn't come into us perfect. So you may have a bale that's 90% white and 10% colored. We'd segregate that 10%, so that there's labor and a cost at our side to manage that. So it all comes down to segregation, and if customers are presenting it well, then negotiations can be had and discussions can be had on costs.
And to follow up on that then, in terms of volume, do you recommend using balers to compress the plastic, or would you rather it loose and segregated? Or
the balers is the trick, and when I go to everybody, that's the conversations I have. Waste is volume. Large volume is little weight, so you need to compress large volumes into smaller volumes to transport it. So your baler is highly recommended, and if you can have a baler for cardboard and a baler for plastic, it's the future. It's the best way of doing it. Otherwise, it'll just cost too much to transport it, and there's not that synergy between the recycler and the horticulturist or the gardener or whatever. So definitely balers are the way to go.
Okay, great. I have one or two more questions here. There's a good few questions for you. Why is it not published that flower pots are recycled by the public? maybe for a different agency to answer. Is Francis concerned about the future of his business as we aim to get away from plastic altogether?
Look, that's part of our business. The nursery is part of our business. We do work with Viscon and Limerick. We do work with all the meat factories, Centra. So our business is it's not specific to the horticulturists. It's throughout the whole country. So we have a good knowledge of waste and how to manage it. And both the directors then are extremely experienced and you know, they play their part in the whole brokerage side of things and exporting the material and getting best value for money. So look, it's a business that's thriving, and you know, it's good. You know, they are putting a lot of effort into, you know, recycling and maintaining that.
Yeah, and I think, Francis, from seeing the work that you're doing with some of the nurseries, it's a solution to a problem for them as well.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah.
A question on some of the materials: is printed cellophane accepted?
Printed cellophane. Where's the origin of the printed cellophane? Is that something like sellotape?
It doesn't say. It just says is printed cellophane accepted. If the person there wants to, they can message you directly or
definitely, yeah, a sample or a photo, and I can do my tests on it and come back then exactly then what the material is. So the whole sink flow test, you can put it in alcohol, you can put it in oil, different plastics burn differently, etc., etc. So that's part of my role, distinguishing what is the material.
Perfect. Okay, I've got two questions, and then we'll hand over to Lorraine, Jesus, and Lael to get that portion going. So the first question is: there any collection base in Dublin or plans to have one?
Yes.
And the second one is: do you work with the nurseries to help them reuse their waste? And why can they not reuse a lot of the materials I saw in the pictures? So firstly, the base in Dublin.
Yeah, look, from collection wise, yes, no problem at all. Collecting in Dublin, all I need is to view the property and just see what's available, whether it be cardboard, plastic, pots, that's no problem. With regards to reusing the pots, again, I don't have an answer, but all I know is some of the pots are dirty, some of the pots are all different colors, different sizes, you know, they're all mixed either in a bag or a container. So again, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, is the honest answer to it.
And I think we mentioned earlier about phytosanitary issues, and I think that would be a key reason why growers don't reuse pots, and also because of automation, that pots have to be pristine, that they can be used in automatic pot dispensing and systems like that. But hand potting, and clean, I think that there will be space there. So Francis, loads of questions there, obviously a lot of interest. And say thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. I'm going to hand over to Lael now, Jesus and Lorraine, and we will chat again in a minute. Thank you.
Hi everyone. I apologize, I dropped off earlier there. I had issues with my connection, but I think it's stabilized now. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Professor Jesus Frias, who is the academic lead for the Environmental Sustainability and Health Institute in Technical University Dublin. Jesus has a wide range of expertise, including post-harvest technology and packaging. And I'm delighted today because Jesus and I have worked together this year on the project Leaf No Waste, and Jesus will be presenting some of the results today. So over to you, Jesus.
Thanks very much, Lael. Let me see if I can share the screen. Okay. Is that okay? Perfect. Thanks very much. So, as Lorraine said, oh, sorry, Lael said, I come here today just to maybe give an overview of a piece of work that we are doing as researchers, collaborating in Teagasc and in TU Dublin. We have a lot of collaborators there, and Lael is one of those ones. I also would like to mention Lorraine, who is here as well in the audience today, and Lorraine is the lead on the project. So if anybody's interested, excuse me, you can contact Lorraine to discuss the project, please. The outline of what I'm going to talk today is a little bit of the background of packaging of horticultural products, a little bit of discussion on the relationships between quality, shelf life, and the amount of food waste or horticultural product waste that may be produced during packaging, retail distribution and retail, sorry. And then a little bit of what we are trying to do in terms of facilitating the transition of horticultural product consumption towards sustainable packaging solutions by research and innovation. Okay. Now, I think you probably are all familiar with this, but the main objectives that we have when we are packaging horticultural products is to serve as a physical barrier that can help the product not getting soiled and not getting contaminated with other things, and maybe to protect from mechanical damage. Packaging of horticultural products has also a significant effect in preventing weight losses, which are another concern for the producer, because you're generally paid by the weight. And then as well, and no less important, packaging may act upon the product that you guys are selling, and may be able to slow down the metabolism of this alive horticultural product, and with a little bit of good luck, extend the shelf life and maintain the quality of that product so that it reaches the consumer at the maximum of its quality properties. Now, having said all that, horticultural products have in general worldwide have been recorded as being one of the products that may end up with a bigger amount of waste. There are records on saying that between the farm, the retail, and the consumer, and in this case, in many cases, it's more concentrated within the retail and the consumer, 1/3 of horticultural products, and may end up as waste. In some specific products, particularly when we're talking about green leafy products like spinach, lettuce, micro leaves, etc., these can be even higher than that in Ireland. Where are these losses or this waste produced? There are unavoidable losses that are created in the farm at the time of harvest or at the time of sorting and processing the product. Depending on environmental conditions, some of the product may be lost in the farm or in the transport, and during the grading, some part of the product may be lost as well due to standards that we need to adhere at the time of selling the product. During retail as well, we have similar issues due to transport, packaging, or the product may have become damaged and maybe rejected. Overstocking and a slow turnaround of a product in retail also results in significant waste. Inadequate storage temperatures or technologies can actually produce an increase in the amount of waste product in the retail. And finally as well, quality audits, gradings, and the assessment of the product may result in it being rejected during retail and not reaching the sale. And that's actually a big problem for the producers, because that commonly ends up being charged into the horticultural producer. Finally, once the product is purchased, we have the last but the most important step of the food chain, which is the consumer. But we need to consider that there are some potential areas where waste can be generated. Again, inadequate storage, mishandling of the product, lack of knowledge or awareness of the quality of the product, on how a product is consumable, and seasonal factors and socio-demographic factors as well influence whether the consumer is going to end up eating the product or whether the product and the bag will end up in the bin, which is the saddest thing of all. One of the techniques that is used in packaging of horticultural products, and I just wanted to mention a little bit because it has an influence in shelf life is modified atmosphere packaging. So both in its passive or in its active form, MAP packaging is a technique that aims at preserving the quality of your product by slowing down the metabolism, the respiration of your product inside the package. So what you are searching for is that the permeability to oxygen and CO2 of the film that you are using to package your product and the water permeability that you have in that film allows you to maintain a rarefied atmosphere inside this package. And this rarefied atmosphere may be able to maintain the product still alive and still in its maximum quality state, but with a slowed metabolic speed, and hence extending the amount of time before you have the senescence and the end of the life of this product. Okay. Now, all this works very well in research and in academia, and we put everything together. However, real life and real agricultural products are not homogeneous, and one of the biggest challenges that the packaging of horticultural products and shelf life of horticultural products is their variability. So if we are looking at, for example, color of mushrooms or weight losses of mushrooms through a storage time, different batches of the mushrooms or different trays of the mushrooms, they're going to behave very, very differently. And this element of uncertainty is going to influence how your product behaves during the transport, during the retail, and at the end during the consumption of the product by the consumer. Not only happy with that, our biological product variability is not the only contributor to uncertainty and to the production of waste when you are sending a packaged product. You also have variability in the cold chain. So you may have different cold chains. Your product may be exported to the UK, maybe exported to Europe, or maybe a national product. It may follow different logistic chains, and the conditions of those logistic chains are not constant. They change enormously. They have seasonal components, etc. And that can add also to the generation or the degradation of some of the quality of the product and the generation of some food waste. Okay, so as researchers, one of the things that we do is, and this is not new, it's the same way as risk assessment or risk analysis of variability was done in the Second World War for the atomic bomb in Los Alamos. We do analysis of uncertainty, how we can check up our mushrooms, for example, how do they behave in situations when we have only biological variability or only cold chain variability, and we can see which properties behave more differently. And this is a typical horticultural product, mushroom, and the behavior is not very strange. There are two main properties that we are interested in: weight loss. And weight loss, you can see here the variability on the weight loss that corresponds to the product is in blue color, and the variability on the weight loss that corresponds to the changes in the cold chain is plotted here in red. And you can see that the importance of the cold chain in weight loss is huge. And you can see how some abuse conditions can create much bigger types of weight losses that can make this product become waste, a shriveled mushroom that nobody wants to buy or consume. However, when we are talking about some of the intrinsic biological properties of a product, like a color, and in the case of mushrooms, white color is one of the important properties. This property is actually very, very product dependent. So how the farm produces the product on day zero seems to dictate pretty much how the product is going to be in front of the consumer. So that variability and that range that you will have on the farmer is going to preserve and is going to calm down on day 6 when somebody wants to prepare a stew with those mushrooms. And it will influence the decision to put it in the stew or to reject it again. So if we use all those two criteria for selecting whether a product is within or outside the specification, we can construct for a short food chain. So let's say at 3 days of packaging, storage, distribution, and then retail, we can plot a little bit how the waste is being generated all through the food chain for mushrooms. And in this case, we were talking here about the perspective of a supermarket receiving mushrooms for several different farms and from several different producers. So you can see how this initial mushroom variability is creating that there is always a certain percentage of the mushrooms that are outside the specifications with a high weight loss or with a low color. And in this case, it's mostly the color, the one that's influencing the decision. And if we progress through the cold chain, there is there's a little bit of creation of waste, okay, from the beginning, but not too much. So in this case, you cannot ascribe a particular, let's say, guilty part in the creation of waste during the cold chain, but this problem that we have is a problem that comes all the way from the beginning of the food chain. It can be improved by maybe producing more homogeneous product by standardizing the production methods and creating a product that has a narrower margin, or maybe something unavoidable. Maybe mushrooms behave like this, and it's something that we will have to live with, which is another thing that you could educate the consumer not to reject a mushroom that is just a little bit brown. Okay, because that's another discussion there to be taken. If we're looking at another product like strawberries, and we're talking here about two quality indexes, weight loss as well, and spoilage by microorganisms, you can see that you can have, again, your food chain conditions are the ones that will influence most the weight loss of the strawberries and whether your strawberry is going to look shriveled by the time it reaches the consumer. And when we're talking about the spoilage, again, this seems to be a mixed share of having possibly product that is not very hygienic at the beginning, and then if the conditions by which these strawberries are distributed allow for the proliferation of molds and spoilage microorganisms, then you will have your spoiled strawberry. In the case of strawberries, though, there is an interesting place that the generation of waste seems to be focused pretty much in the last 2 days of the chain here. And obviously, if you are looking here on how to prevent food waste during those 3 short food chain, you would like to focus on this in the area of retail, maybe decrease the temperatures at which these strawberries are being distributed, maybe prevent somehow the contamination by molds and yeast that may colonize those strawberries and prevent that. Dónall, you have raised your hand. Dónall?
I think Dónall Gernan has. No, it's okay, Jesus. You can.
It's okay. Sorry,
yeah,
I'll go faster just to try to finish.
No problem.
Yep. So the last number of slides that I have, I want to discuss that on top of all these problems, which is one of the huge problems that the horticultural producers have, we are now experiencing a transition towards sustainable plastics. Okay, there is a desire from the industry to reduce plastic waste. The society is indicating that single-use plastic is an issue. Governments and even international organizations are defining objectives on plastic use reduction, and the industry can be external to this. They have to lead this type of change. Wasted food is responsible for 8 to 10 of global greenhouse emissions, so waste is an important element in climate change. And we have committed ourselves to halve our food waste by 2030. Okay. We also have committed ourselves to reduce single-use plastic, and we are part of the agents that are using single-use plastic. We are 2% of this program. Not the biggest one, I would say. There are other ones, but we are part of this type of use. So the industry is moving itself towards trying to find solutions, and these solutions have challenges because the horticultural industry has been relying on very well-defined technological solutions with the petrochemical films that were very well adapted to the products that they had to preserve. And now suddenly we need to leave this technology and we need to jump into something else that maybe is not working so well and is melting our green leaves and our herbs. Okay, so the proposal that we have, and this is what we are researching at the moment collaboratively between Teagasc and TU Dublin, is to try to build resilience in this by innovation. We're proposing that maybe some agricultural interventions, and we are suggesting at the moment a foliar silicon treatment, which is used, for example, in Asia quite extensively, may be used to modify the properties, the metabolic properties and the respiration rates of the products that we are producing, and that foliar silicon agriculture intervention may allow us to package those products in sustainable films. Okay, if we are able to do that, we are suggesting as well that a life cycle assessment will be able to make and produce quantitative measurements of the benefit to the environment and the benefit of reducing the single use of plastic, plus the loss, the reduction of food waste with this agricultural treatment, and that we will be able to produce for the industry quantitative figures of environmental benefits. And we are hoping that at least we'll be able to provide the same type of shelf life as we had previously. Okay? There are presently some alternatives to our traditional films that we use for MAP and for vegetables, starch-based plastics. PLA is one of the ones that has been coming around the place. Cellulose-based plastics as well are coming around, and they seem to provide a very good indication of a benefit in terms of environmental and global warming indexes. Okay, we're proposing that we are going to assess the change, the intervention of change into these plastics by a life cycle assessment to quantify all the environmental benefits and the trade-offs, considering the growing, the storage, the packaging process, and the retail, and looking as well at how we're going to manage the generation of waste through all these processes. And we hope that we will be providing the industry with solid figures to back up this transition to sustainable films. In the same way, we are doing experimentation ourselves, and we are trying to assess how we can evaluate the benefit of these agricultural interventions and how this benefit can be used to counterbalance the potential damaging effect of solutions that may not be completely suitable for the product that we want, but that we may modify the product within the agricultural intervention. And we're looking at, again, at weight loss, at color of the green products, etc. Okay, and well, we're hoping with this that we are going to help the horticultural industry, that we are going to build a better circular economy for these products, that we will be able to standardize the process of adopting alternative plastic materials for the industry, and that we will put the different stakeholders, retailers and growers, possibly on a discussion on how to identify the trades-off in cost, how to develop maybe a branding image that can be used for the benefit of both growers and retailers, and that can generate a positive economy for the adoption of plastic films. Okay, so this is the team that we're working. Lorraine is the PI of the project, but we're working as well with Lael and Shivani from Teagasc, and we have Karen O'Donoghue working with the horticultural communities, and we have a colleague of yours, Steve McCormack from McCormack Family Farms, that is collaborating with us. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jesus. That was an excellent presentation. We have some questions that have come through, and I'll address those. But if anyone else has any questions that come to mind now, please send them through on the Q&A or on the chat. So the first question that came through is, can we have a copy of the presentations? And I believe that this is being recorded. It will be cleaned up and it will be made available on the Teagasc website. So anybody wishing to view it again at a later stage can do so then. So it will be available to anyone that's interested. The next question we have, and this is one for you, Jesus. What are the researchers' opinions on the use of compostable films, for example, pillow pouch packs and lidding films?
Well, I'm not familiar. I'll confess I'm not too familiar with pillow pouch packs and little films, but I can give a general opinion on compostable films. Okay, so they seem to be at the moment at a stage where there are commercial products being tested by colleagues. There is at the moment within the industry maybe, and I'll be very naive saying it, but there is maybe a kind of an approach of a pack and pray, where people has learned from others and is saying that this could be a potential solution for their own products as well. And I think, in my opinion, is that there is a need to develop a knowledge and to develop a little bit of research on the suitability of those compostable films for the particular product that the Irish horticulturalists are growing.
Jesus, I have another question that comes to mind. As a grower listening to your presentation and possibly thinking about changing the type of films used in the packaging, where would a grower start to even make this transition and figure out what possible films are the right films, what decisions to make in terms of the materials in the films and things like that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know, I'm going to maybe put the broom towards yourselves in Teagasc. I think there is a little bit of an innovation work that needs to be done. I think an horticulturalist in Ireland that is aiming to make a transition toward more sustainable films, they should consult with their agricultural consultants and the service to be able to identify what are the opportunities that are available. And as I said, there are already, you can buy a roll of a compostable film, you can make tests, you can do work. I think that maybe before doing that, knowledge needs to be acquired by the company, by the horticulture company, to identify what are the best options. Maybe some testing needs to be done in laboratories to confirm that suitability, some small testing, or to design the package for the film. And from there on, I think there is a reasonably promising road. Okay, as I think there's going to be more and more of these type of products arriving in the market.
Another question here for Lorraine, thinking about the biostimulant that was used to treat stimulant, and what should they be thinking through in terms of using that in a field situation?
Some of the question was unclear, Lael, but I'm assuming it's a question on the actual biostimulant that was used in the research and the best way to use it. Would that be a fair assessment? So at a field level, we did it two ways. We conducted in a pilot study first to just get a feel for the products. I used a range of products in Polytunnel, and I just got a sense of the product. I followed the guidelines as per label, and then I made determinations to use different dosages thereafter. But I did follow the guidance, from the manufacturer directly. And then at a field level, I just scaled it up marginally just to suit the scale of the experiment outdoors. But the product worked very effectively in a glasshouse environment as well as in a field environment. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Lorraine. Yes, that does. I don't see any further questions coming through, so I think we've addressed all the questions we have for now. Dónall Flanagan, does that seem okay?
That's great, Lael. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting to see how the packaging can influence the shelf life and how that might change over time, and give, you know, 1/3 of the produce that's not that's lost through the process, that it gives it kind of a better opportunity for it to make it to the final consumer's plate. So we hope that that'll change in the future. So I think maybe if there's no more questions, there's one more has come in there. So for Jesus, thanks for your presentation. Please concisely discuss the water vapor sensitivity as their defects of edible biopolymeric films that prevent them to be industrialized, and how we can overcome such problems. Is that
I'll try to answer
complex
that
one?
question. It is not a bad question. It's the properties of some of these kind of cellulose-based films means that they are a little bit more hydrophilic, and they have a little bit more water permeability. They let the water pass through the film a little bit easier than the petrochemical-based films. So there is, yes, a technological issue here because some of these films are resulting in a slightly bigger weight loss than, for example, oriented polypropylene. Because OPP is so impermeable, it's not going to let any water going out, and it results always in weight loss not being an issue. These other films do have that issue, and if we are talking about longer food chains, specifically if we are extending towards 6, 7, 8 days, depending on the product, if you're exporting to the UK mushrooms, you may come up with figures of weight losses that could be a little bit more of a problem. So it's not resolved at the moment. Okay, there are devices that can be used to increase the amount of water in the packaging, inside the packaging. There are secondary packaging, and there are other solutions that can be used to reduce that weight loss through distribution. But eventually, the package is going to arrive to the supermarket and is going to be there, and then it's going to go to the fridge, and it's going to stay there in the fridge for a while, and there is the risk of shriveling and weight loss there again. So it's a complex question and not resolved yet.
Okay, Jesus. Well, I guess there's always research to be done in these areas, and it's maybe a rabbit hole you learn. There's more to be investigated as you go along.
Yeah.
So I think with that, we might bring the webinar to a close. I really want to thank everybody who's joined us there this afternoon, and in particular to our speakers, Jesus, and Francis and Lorraine, for joining us. Lael is online there, and normally Dónall Flanagan will be joining us as well, but isn't able to today. So thank you all very much, and particularly for the speakers for taking time to prepare their presentations. It's been very interesting and very useful. Our next meeting is, we have a webinar on the 20th of October. It's the Nursery Stock Seminar, and it will be an in-person event and also online. And that's going to be held in Ashtown in Dublin, and then Zoom as well. So the topic there will be looking at growing media, pest risk analysis, and we'll have input then from a German research center and looking at some of their key results in the last year. So with that, I'll say thank you very much to everyone, and hopefully we'll see you all again sometime soon. So thank you very much. Take care.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.